and social reactions. 3, psychological and emotional reaction. And 4, spiritual reactions. What do we mean by physical reaction? And there we have already told you, stress can either be positive or negative. And it is normal to be stressed. But a positive what? Stress. We have seen that a positive stress is very positive to our daily activities because it triggers and boosts the memory. So what are some of these physical reactions that we tend to have? What are some of these physical reactions that we tend to have towards stress? What are some of these behavioral and social reactions? Bringing you back to the theories of psychosocial. People like Sigmund Freud, the fathers of psychology, who came up with all these theories. You realize that if you have unfinished business even from your childhood, you are born up and brought up in a family where you are told that your uncle is a witch doctor or your uncle is a witch. So you grew up knowing that my uncle is a witch. Even if you win the election, you say he has used what? Witchcraft to win that election. And therefore, it will take a toll. Stress will take a toll on your life, your psychological and emotional aspect. And you will tend to react in a negative way. And some of the physical reactions, can we get some response from you, please? What are some of the responses, Baraza?
You can fight.
Yeah, you can fight. You can decide the way I'm going to deal with this stress is only to fight.
Cry.
Yes?
Divorce.
You can force. You divorce. Yeah, you divorce, but officers, I don't think you will divorce. You humiliate your wife because it is your problem until
You can destroy properties.
you can destroy properties. Left that. You can poison yourself, but don't commit suicide, please, my brothers and sisters. You have faced a lot of problems in this world. Don't be prepared to go and be burnt in the fire in the heaven. You become forgetful. Sorry. Yeah, you isolate yourself. Physical reaction, you isolate yourself. You overeat like some of you are doing here.
You become rebellious. You become rebellious. You become rebellious of everything.
Yeah, in the morning I was in the temple with some of my friends, and they had about 3 plates.
Just here. What was it? Just here. You become rebellious.
We become rebellious, yes. Mentally disturbed. The physical reaction, some of the physical reaction, the heartbeat will raise. There are people when they are stressed, their heartbeat races and start to beat very fast. Inspiration. It's all about breathing. Jamaa anaanza kupumua kwa nguvu. Ukiwa karibu anaweza kupiga ngumi. Blood pressure. You will hear people telling you, don't try to raise my pressure. Don't give me blood pressure. And nowadays people are saying, don't give me salt pressure. So you realize that your blood pressure will raise. There are those of you who start to feel nausea, start to feel like they want to vomit. Stomach upset, unakuwa na butterfly in the stomach. Unasikia kuna vitu vinatembea kwa tumbo, there is some movement in the stomach, and even some go to an extent of diarrhea. Those are some of the physical reaction to stress. You start to experience sweating. You just sweat from nowhere, just like this morning. You are sweating. You have a handkerchief, you are? Physical reactions, before anything, even the Bible says the mouth will speak what is in the heart. Before something is seen from outside, it must begin from inside. So they are both. They begin from inside and then they manifest outside. And therefore it becomes a what? A physical. So, there are people who sweat. Unafunga kwa sababu sitaki muone mwingine. Some of you your sponsor certificate are questionable. They are sakajaneted.
Repeat again.
Sometimes when we are stressed, one of the physical reactions will be to lose appetite. You are not able, but I thank God since we came here, nobody has lost appetite. And therefore, nobody here is stressed. You are very normal. You are very normal. Nobody here is stressed. And the last one, you are unable to sleep. All of us have been sleeping very well. I'm sure. We've been sleeping very well. But one of the physical reactions to stress is at being unable to sleep well. You can spend around 2 hours, and you know the effect of lack of sleep in our lives. It disorganizes you completely. You are not able to carry yourself in the right manner. And therefore, we need to enjoy our sleep. I'm putting it off again. That is a trigger. We have the behavioral or social reaction. How do we behave if we are stressed? How will somebody who has been affected by the violence behave behavioral or in a social context? How do these people behave?
Talking too much.
Yeah, there are people who talk too much. Disconnection. They will isolate themselves.
Some will have fear.
Yeah, some of them will have fear.
That's cry.
Others are always angry for no apparent reason. Lower performance.
Where?
They're asking lower performance where? In the school? Yeah, others may fail to respond when you greet them. They tell you give those greetings to yourself. Others cry. Yeah, others will cry.
Low self-esteem.
Loss of self-esteem.
Others.
Yeah, talking to oneself on the road and throwing the keys here and there. Sorry? Laziness. Some will vomit.
Phobia.
Phobia. Yeah, phobia. Some will develop phobia, maybe of darkness or light or certain people. I think you have seen in the court that people develop phobia towards the officer. When they see you, they want to run away from you. So these are some of the things, but when you put them together, they can mean withdrawal from families. You've talked about isolation. When you withdraw from family members, sometimes it is a behavioral reaction towards stress. You tend to withdraw, you want to do things your own way. Unasema mimi ni afisa, nitaama kwetu niende ninunue shamba wapi? Is that stress?
Management.
Could be.
Management.
Wanaiba mahindi yangu nikileta vikombe nyumbani.
They are running away from the family.
Running away from the family. So that one is, maybe we can do research on it and then we find out whether we can interrogate it further. There is the hyperactivity, the way you are said, we tend to develop phobia whenever you're sending hyperactivities, being hyper on some things, and we don't want to really interact with them. Inability to rest or lie down. Some of you have been pointed it out. You are unable. You are just restless, unable to settle. Periods of crying, the way you have been saying, others will cry endlessly, even for no apparent reason. Somebody just decide to cry, even though yesterday we said it's a form of communication. Therefore, he'll be communicating that I am sick and I need attention and I need healing. And therefore, whenever somebody cries, even in your family, tend to have time with that person. And also one thing that you should know, counseling is not a one-day activity. It is a process. It can take even the whole year. It can even take the whole year. So you cannot end up counseling somebody within one day. Maybe one day, the few hours you had with them, maybe it was just an intake process. Because there are also a process of counseling. Maybe you are just getting to know about that person, the historical background, the family, things that they go through as a family. Psychological and emotional issues. What are some of the psychological and emotional issues? And sometimes these psychological issues and behavioral issues are somehow interrelated. But still, there are those who have not talked. You can share some of the psychological and emotional reactions. Share what you think about psychology. Is all about our minds and thought processes. What are some of the psychological reactions towards stress? Yes, George. Kuchanganyikiwa. Mtu anachanganyikiwa kabisa.
Endless headache.
Endless headache. How many of you have Panadols? Is it Panadol that treat headache or what? Headache.
Mara moja.
You have an endless headache. You don't feel settled. Unasema kichwa inaniuma kutoka asubuhi mpaka jioni. That is a sign of an acute stress. Because you are told headache is not a disease. Headache is a sign of underlying issue.
Restlessness.
Restlessness, you are not able to settle well. Fear of the unknown. Silence, there are those who will decide not to talk. That's a behavioral fear. Anger. Yeah, anger. Some of them are just angered for no apparent reason. Even when a chicken is passing by, they feel that that head should be
Killed.
and be taken to a dreadful place.
Huyo ni Muluya.
Mkono iko hapo.
Kuna mikono huko.
Yes. Sorry? Memory lapses. They will not be able to remember things well. And that one can also be seen here when you shall be doing the recap. Some of you forgot what they were taught from Monday. You can only recall what you have been taught at the moment.
Right now.
And therefore, some of the things that have been highlighted here, even though you have said is correct, it is only now the wording has been crammed into one word. Sadness, grief, and depression. But depression, for somebody to be depressed, it means you have been under stress for 3 months and above. You cannot be in depression if you have not gone through the cycle of stress. And therefore you must be stressed for 3 months and above is when now depression will be able to sink in. And depression, don't pray to be there. Some of you have gone to Madari Mental Hospital. Those are guys are at an acute level of depression. They are not sick, but they are depressed. You know, sometimes when our mental is affected, it leads us to start saying things the way somebody has been telling us. You will start talking to yourself. When you reach that level, you should know you are the next client of Madare Mental Hospital. If you usually talk to yourself, there is something that is disturbing you. And maybe in a few months' time, we shall see you in Madare Mental Hospital. There is also identification with the victim. Sometimes there are people who will see people suffering, and therefore they want to be identified with the people who are suffering. A good example is the war between Russia and Ukraine. Do you know we have people here who have subscribed to the army to go and fight in Ukraine? They want to be identified because they feel Russia is treating Ukraine unfairly. And therefore they are enlisting in different armies to go and fight there. So they want to be identified with that victims. That is an emotional. You are reacting to situations in an emotional way. Or somebody has been given a very wrong appointment. You start sympathizing with that person. That is not your appointment. Don't sympathize with him or her. Let her or him go and face that appointment. Because the covenant says you'll go wherever you are
Sent.
sent.
Hallelujah.
I like that.
I was brought from Mombasa to Nairobi. So I am in Nairobi. I have not died. Flashback from dreams. Flashback, there are people who will tend to bring, for example, there's a time I was going to collect my son from school, and a pro box came from behind. He overtook me, and then in the process he hit a border. So I always see that picture in my, it happened last year, but I still see it in there because I had never seen an accident in my life. I only heard of an accident that has happened, but now I saw it firsthand. Somebody being hit from behind, and then he somersaulted in the heaven, and then he fell on the tarmac, and the brain decided to bury itself before the day that he was supposed to be buried. So I still usually recall those things. And then not because I'm suffering from stress, but because of what I saw. There are people who will dream. You've buried your father, you have seen people who have been affected by violence, they are being buried, and then so many days you see your father or your mother who died, or your brother, you still see them in the dreams. You are under stress, you need to repent, because seeing the dead people in the dreams simply means you don't have a good relationship with who? With God. Ecclesiastes chapter 9 verse 4 to 6. The dead and living have nothing in common. So if you are seeing somebody who died, you are under stress and you need to come here and pray for you. Apathy. You tend not to be concerned about some things. You know, when you are an apathy, you are given a target, because you have seen people fighting, you start to bring a lot of excuses, tending to make the work of the command leader to be hard. Therefore, don't practice apathy. Be concerned with what is happening. Confusion, the way some of you have put it, and suicidal thoughts. Don't harbor suicidal thoughts. Deal with the situation the way it comes, because no situation is permanent. And even in that appointment, you're not there permanent. Spiritual reactions. What are some of these spiritual reactions? Some of the spiritual reactions.
You sing too much. You can sing.
Yeah, you can sing too much. There are people when they are stressed in the morning at 6, you start to sing. Disturbing the neighbors, especially if you are living in an estate and you are singing in the morning, you are disturbing somebody who is sleeping.
You move out of the church or the congregation.
Yeah, you move, you decide this church, if they have done these things, they are not able to reach out to that community that has been affected by violence, it's better you move from this church. Hopelessness without hope. You think now everything has come to a standstill and to an end. Yeah, if you are a pastor major like me, instead of blessing people, you are quarreling. And this one I've seen it. I went to a call where there are people who had already came to the meeting earlier. And then the pastor stood up, started to quarrel with people who have already come and telling them, why have you come to the meeting late? And they are there already earlier seated. So it must have been a reaction. There must have been something wrong somewhere, and therefore he's trying to transparencies to his people in the congregation. I saw a hand there. Some of the
making an professional prophecy.
Yeah, making unprofessional prophecy, right? Unaambia watu umewaonea maono. Some of the spiritual reaction is we tend to blame God. I think you have seen people saying whenever a calamity or a violence occurs, they ask, where was God in this? Where was God in this? And therefore we tend to blame God, even though God is not supposed to be blamed. There is spiritual exhaustion. The way some of you have put it, you tend now, because you are spiritually exhausted, you tend now to withdraw. Nimekuwa kwa hii kanisa mwaka mingi, hata huyu Yesu Kristo tumehubiri arudi. And therefore they are exhausted. And there are those who feel guilty that they could have done something before that situation, or now we are here, we are being taught about these issues. And now when the violence arises, we are unable to do something, and we have the training, we have the skills, we have been empowered. Sometimes after the situation has cooled down, we will start to feel guilty that I had all this knowledge, I could have helped this community, but I've been unable to do it. And there are those who will feel resentment. Kuna kitu nakusumbua kwa moyo tu, for no apparent reason. You feel that this thing was supposed to be done in this way, but it has not been done in this way. So you harbor that resentment throughout your life, which is not a good sign. We are going to have an exercise for ourselves. This is for ourselves. You as an individual. You as an individual. Just write somewhere. This one I am not going to share, but as we move towards the end, we shall have some group work that we do and be able to share. So this is an exercise that all of us should participate in. Self-awareness. Self-awareness first is simply knowing and understanding yourself. Before you understand other people, you need to understand yourself. Before other people understand you, you need to understand yourself. And therefore, some of the key points that will help you to understand yourself: define stress in your own words or way. And then some of the signs that maybe you do experience as an individual. We have already looked at the physical, emotional, and psychological signs of stress. And what makes you feel good or gives you strength as an individual. Some of these things will help you to understand yourself. Remembering that initially we have said you cannot help others if you yourself you are unable to support yourself. How can you go to care for somebody else if you are unable to care for yourself? Well, take about 3 minutes and be able to do something. Because I may randomly check or pick what you would have written. Kono nauliza swali. Watu gani ambao wako na stress sana? Ni wazee? Is it the elderly or young people?
Middle-aged. The middle-aged.
Middle-aged. Because of the life?
Yes.
The age. Somebody is saying the age have already angered themselves. Banga, tayari. They have already planned for their life. Unless if they made a mistake somewhere.
Even was under stress.
Was it?
Everybody has stress. Even the
Yeah, either positive or negative. Even myself, I have stress, but a positive one.
But the rate is different.
It is positive.
But the rate is different.
There.
The rate. You'll find the most aged wana stress kidogo. Watoi wana stress kidogo. Sisi ndio tuko na taabu.
Regina is saying the level of stress and extended. The elderly have less stress. The middle class now, most of us, we are between 45 and